I was very settled into motherhood. I mean, at a very young age, I just felt like it was a very natural thing for me. And I think when I turned 21 and then discovered there's this whole other world out there, that's when it became difficult because my friends were having fun. It was sort of like out of sight, out of mind for the first couple of years of being a mom because my friends were in college and I just focused on, my life here in town, and we were renting a house and I had this part-time job and really happy just being home and being a mom. And I kind of thought that would be it for me. I just remember vividly going out into the Old Port in Portland, Maine, which is a fabulous little city, and realizing there's this whole other life that I had never been exposed to. That was when it became sort of hard for me because my friends continued to have fun and I always had to balance it.
You're listening to the MILF Podcast. This is the show where we talk about motherhood and sexuality with amazing women with fascinating stories to share on the joys of being a MILF. Now here's your host, the MILFiest MILF I know, Jennifer Tracy.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is MILF Podcast, the show where we talk about motherhood, entrepreneurship, sexuality, and everything in between. I'm Jennifer Tracy, your host. Welcome back, you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm still high from the live show. It was so much fun. And I can't wait to do the next one. I'm already making plans. Yeah, it was just so much fun. Christina Grants and all the other dancers who came to pole dance kind of blew everyone's minds. It was pretty epic. Along with that, in speaking of that, I want to thank this week's episode sponsor, Serpent Lane. Serpent Lane is an online lingerie store at serpentlane.com that provides size-inclusive, affordable, fun, and provocative lingerie for every woman. And I own many, 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 many pieces from there. I love shopping there. She also, if you sign up for the newsletter, you get special discounts. Often she's very generous with the discounts or free shipping. And her stuff is just fun. It's just fun. And it's fun to play with that. And it's fun to get pieces like that for yourself and just wear them under your everyday clothing. We don't have to buy lingerie and save it for, a night when we're going to plan to wear it for our partners. That's fun too, but it's actually more fun just to wear it for ourselves. MILF listeners get an exclusive 15% off their order with the code MILF15. Go check it out, serpentlane.com. Thank you so much, Serpent Lane, for sponsoring this episode of MILF Podcast. Really couldn't do it without you. So grateful. And today on the show, we have the amazing MJ Grant. One of the things that is such a gift for me about doing the show is that I've gotten to meet women that I would normally never get to connect with. I've met women from all over the world, from Australia, London. MJ is on the other side of the US. And if it weren't for the incredible, amazing Jennifer Pasteloff, who referred MJ to me, I don't know that we would have connected, and we did. And I just love her so much. She's just this incredible, passionate, alive, vibrant woman with so much wisdom to share and so much depth. I know you're going to love this episode. So please enjoy my talk with MJ Grant. Hi, MJ.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to meet you. I feel like I know you.
Oh,
yeah. I've been watching your stuff and, following you on Insta, and I just love you.
Thank you. Well, I love you too. We met through Jen Pasteloff, which is amazing. She had messaged me and said, get this woman on your show. And I reached out to you right away and you responded yes. And I was so thrilled.
Yeah, that was really wonderful. Jen's wonderful. She's great with connecting
She's
people.
amazing. Oh my God. She
wonderful.
really is. First of all, what does MJ stand for?
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured.
Yeah.
And where are you from originally?
Maine. I actually live in the same town I grew up in. Sanford, Maine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's unusual. I mean, these days, usually most people migrate elsewhere.
Oh, I know. I've been a mom though since I was 19, so I really couldn't go anywhere. So I settled here in town. And a lot of people who grew up here tend to stay here.
Yeah. So So tell me about that. You became a mom at 19.
Right. Yeah.
What was that like? How did it happen? I mean, I know how it happened, but like the logistics of it.
Yeah, I fell in love in high school, and he was
Oh,
older than I am, or I was, and he's still older, obviously. But he was my first love, and I'll tell you, it's like the moment I felt that, that was it. It was like an
oh,
addiction. It was like, and I'm not with him at this point, but we still are in each other's lives. My son is 24.
wow.
And yeah, I don't know. We did not plan on having a child. That was not the
Hmm.
plan. In fact, after high school, I had moved, to Rhode Island and worked for the summer and thought I was going to settle down there and go to college and all that stuff. And then I just felt like I needed to be back here. And I came back home and we continued our relationship. And a few months later, I was pregnant. So that sort of defined my path for a long time.
Yeah, I'll say.
For a
Yeah.
really long time. While all my friends were going off to college, I was having a baby.
And what was that like, being the only one of your friends that was a mother, a new mother?
Well, at first, it was really wonderful because I was very settled into motherhood. I mean, at a
Mm,
very young age, I just felt like it was a very natural thing for me. And I think when
mm,
I turned 21 and then discovered there's this whole other world out there, that's
right.
when it became difficult because my friends were having fun. It was sort of like out of sight, out of mind for the first couple of years of being a mom because my friends were in college and I just
Uh-huh.
focused on my life here in town, and we were renting a house, and I had this part-time job and really happy just being home and being a mom. And I kind of thought that that would be it for me. I just remember vividly going out into the Old Port in Portland, Maine, which is a fabulous little city, and realizing there's this whole other life that I had never been exposed to. That was when it became sort of hard for me because my friends continued to have fun and I always had to balance it. And I have sort of this addictive personality. And so sort of addicted to love and addicted to, something. I have hyper focused stuff, going on. So once I get into something, I get really hyper focused. So I could not do all of the stuff my friends were doing because I
Right.
had to be home and be a mom. And at that point, it sort of like was the split for me in my relationship because I realized I am not this is not my existence forever. I can't, I mean, being the same person since I was 16 years old. And it was like, I just saw a different path for me. So we split off, but obviously we are, still co-parented. And
Hmm.
I spent the next few years kind of floundering and trying to balance life and being able to have fun, balanced with work, balanced with being a mom and trying not to feel guilty. So I look back at those years and the guilt was real. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was
Tell me more
hard.
about that. So when you
Yeah.
say guilt, like guilt over what specifically?
When I had my son, I thought, this is it. I'm going to be that stay at home mom, work a few hours a week, just continue to have more children, get married. And then my path changed. I just had a really hard time with the idea of, when he was with his father, I would go out. And then the next day I'd be exhausted. Then he'd come back to my house and I'd have to be a mom and I'm tired. I wanted to go out. I wanted to have fun. I want to start a career. I didn't go to college. What am I going to do? It was like I was just confused. And I really looked up to some amazing moms who were just settled in their lives. And I didn't feel settled at all, but I loved being a mom. So it was like, why can't I just make this my whole life? I, grappled with that for years.
So
And
you felt guilty because you were deviating from your original idea
right,
of what you thought it was going to be. So you
of
basically
course.
you felt guilty for like being authentic to yourself. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that because I
yeah,
think so many people need to hear that. It's like,
absolutely.
and Jen has said this too, like you're allowed to change your mind, but we're not really taught that,
We are not.
so I think that's so interesting. And what changed for you, or did it change that you were able to kind of not make peace with it, but just go forward with this sort of new vision of life for yourself? Did some event happen or?
It was not one event. It was a series of events. It was a series of heartache and just a lot of really pushing through different obstacles, and I'm 44 now, and I can look back. I have a very close relationship with my son. I now have 4 children, and ranging from 24 to 5. So my 5-year-old daughter is, she's sort of like the grandchild of the family. But I think I look back and it was just a matter of going through. I'm sort of like a butterfly, I guess, and maybe even a hummingbird. I know that who's it? Elizabeth, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love? Yeah, Gilbert. That butterfly, the hummingbird or jackhammer, and I'm the hummingbird, So I kind of like dabble in things, and I feel a little bit like a butterfly in ways, but I felt like I needed to stay grounded in this town, in this house. I've been in this house since, my son was a baby. Moved out for a little bit, but then came back in this house and purchased it. So it's mine, it's been mine ever since. But I think going through a series of relationships, more children, and establishing myself as a professional, establishing my career, still managing to balance fun with career, with being a mom, with being able to travel and navigating through all of that. It hasn't been easy. And I think recently over the past few years, it feels as if the floodgates opened and everything I locked inside of me, the guilt and all of those things it just came flooding open. And I can't describe it as anything other than a process of kind of expanding and accepting and acknowledging and all of that stuff. There's things I'm not proud of, and I've talked openly with my son, since he's been very young, and we talked about what was it like for you being young, with a mom who was still trying to figure things out. I never ran into addiction issues or things like that. It wasn't like that. Yeah. It was just a lot of, I should be this way, but I'm this way. And oh gosh, what's the perception of me? And what do people think about me? And it was a lot of fear around worrying about what people thought. I've sort of gone through a metamorphosis. Something came up for me last year that brought things up for me again in terms of my shame. I felt shame around, not being with the same man for all those years, not, having the same father for the children, and a lot of shame. And it was very clear to me that I had not resolved the shame I felt years ago, because it came back up after years of not feeling it. And that sort of started this kind of journey. I don't know, a lot of heartache and hard knocks.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like within that you found a career what is the career?
I'm a sign language interpreter. I started doing that when I was 21, when I had to, because my partner and I had split up and I was a single mom. So I better do this.
So, but the reason that you are a sign language interpreter is very interesting, because your mom is deaf.
Yeah, both of my parents are.
Both of your parents are deaf. So you were raised with this, and are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
No, I have an older sister. She's about a year and a half older. Yeah.
Okay. So being raised in that kind of environment, and your mom, I want to meet your mom. I can't wait to meet your mom one day. I want to come to Maine and just meet her, because when I see the videos of the two of you, and there was one of you guys walking on the path with your daughter, and she had the bike, and you said, somehow I got the bike and the basket and that, and they're off running and having fun. But it was so sweet. And so what was it like growing up in an environment where, you just learned sign language probably from the time you could talk and walk, and it was like a second language for you.
It's sort of part of my first, right? So it's a hodgepodge of language. I guess I grew up with, there was some spoken language because we had, been around daycare or whatnot and watched Sesame Street. But sign language was the primary language used in our home. So really I grew up with both,
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so then you just became, then you became a sign language interpreter out of necessity, because you were like, I need to make a living and I have this skill.
Well, I actually always wanted to be one.
You did?
And
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
and back in the day, I never really saw a sign language interpreter, so I don't really know where, the idea came from. But because it was just a natural thing for me to always interpret for my parents growing up, I started interpreting for them when I was, pretty much at the point in which I could talk, making phone calls for them.
Wow.
There weren't video phones back then, and it was really,
Sure.
tough for them to use the TTY relay service, and it was slow and easier to just have your kids do it for you. So,
Sure.
I did a lot of that growing up, but I always wanted to be an interpreter or a singer. I just can't sing, so that's a
Mm.
problem. And it didn't, right? And my parents were so encouraging. They're like, "Yes, you go. You
Oh.
try." And like, "Oh, you
Oh.
can't hear my voice," but I really was like, "I'm going on Star Search."
Oh
I'm
my
doing it.
God,
Oh, yeah.
Star Search, Star
I so
Search. I
never
forgot
wanted
about
to be
Star
on it.
Search. Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Oh gosh. So I had never really seen an interpreter, but in high school I explored some options for interpreter training programs, and then I don't know why I didn't just go for it then. I kind of just
Mm,
wanted to do my own thing, go on my own path, and
sure.
but I kind of, yeah. So at 21, I called the deaf school, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys need like volunteers or something. I wanted to get into figuring out how I could become an interpreter, and they happened to have a superintendent at the time who was the first deaf superintendent ever hired, and
Wow.
he said, actually, I'm looking for an interpreter, somebody who's my designated interpreter, and I'm like, well, I don't have any training, and
Yeah.
but I got hired, and don't ask me why. I was really lucky. He was able to kind of train me a little bit as we went along. He was wonderful to work with, and I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of other professional interpreters who were willing to work with somebody who had zero training but
Wow.
had a good attitude and had grown up using sign language. So back
Yeah.
then, that was sort of how you came into the field. And
Interesting.
now it's different, so, but I got lucky in that way. And I just had a lot of, it was the right timing for a lot of things and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
I got into it.
And you
Yeah.
just continued on. Did you work at the college or at the school?
I worked at the deaf school for a while. Yeah. And then I moved on and I started interpreting in a public school setting where they had one deaf child. And that was slightly depressing and hard to
Mm,
watch. And wonderful at the same time because it afforded me the opportunity to continue to practice and hone in on my skills, my storytelling skills in ASL, and
hmm
because there's a lot of stories being read when you're in kindergarten. But I was that
Sure.
child's language model,
Oh,
and so it
wow.
was like, there's a lot of pressure for that, and the
Yeah.
isolation. You see when you're witnessing one deaf child
Oh,
in an environment where they're all hearing.
sure.
And then I decided to freelance and was welcomed into the community. They opened their arms to me, and they kind of took me under their wing. And
Yeah.
I freelanced, and then years later, I had been an interpreter for several years. I decided to open up my own referral service, and so I've been doing that for almost 10 years now. So establishing
Wow.
my career, it just continues. It just keeps
Sure.
going, and I keep,
It's evolving. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
really been
amazing.
great. Yeah.
And somewhere along there, you met someone who, are you still with the
Uh,
father of your
I'm with my husband, Jesse. Yes. And
Jesse?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah. We actually
and
went to high school together.
oh my
Yeah, I know. Isn't that
gosh,
so
I
like,
love
it's
that.
so like small town stuff, it's so
Well,
cute.
but it makes sense when you live in,
Yeah.
a smaller town. I mean, it just makes sense. So, and
Yeah.
there's something nice about that. I think there's something really comforting about that.
There is.
Like to know someone's roots.
We were friends in high school. We used to
Yeah.
hang out, we hung
Yeah.
with the same crowd, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And so then you guys started a family.
Yeah, we started our family. We have so Jesse and I have Alana together. He hadn't had children. And so I was done having children because clearly I wasn't successful at having a relationship, for more than 5 years at a time. I think what I had this habit of doing was just sort of painting this picture on somebody I would meet. And I would say, this is what I need, right?
Mm,
I mean, how many of us
I think
can,
so many people can relate to that. I
oh,
mean,
oh, yeah, right.
it's
This is what I need.
projection. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. And then when it's like, wait a minute, you're not what I painted you to be. Why
Right.
not? And then you go through the years of struggle of trying to make them that way. And
Totally. Totally.
that, that's been a lot of that's been a huge part of my path. Love is sort of an overarching theme in my life. And it's been really interesting. It's been an interesting journey in that way. And so Jesse and I, we connected about 10 years ago, reconnected after not seeing each other for years. And at that point, it was like, I had no intentions of ever, marrying again. I had been married once, and I had no intentions of ever getting married again. It was like, clearly I'm not good at this. I have, I have issues. I'm not able to make it last. I keep doing the same thing. And then that shifted for me. It shifted. It took a while. We were together for about 4 or 5 years before we got married. And, he's been wonderful, and we're friends. That's the thing, and it hasn't come without hardship. I mean, trust me, you have to work at not repeating cycles. Right. Yeah. And that's what's been growth for me.
So is that what you attribute the change to?
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall back into the same cycle, and it's easy to create the same story.
Yeah.
It's easy, but at some point you have to say to yourself, okay, what is this about? And I used to sort of define it superficially, and now it's like, no, this is really, I have to go back. I have to go. So I've been going through a process. I have an amazing spiritual counselor, life coach guy who's in Canada, and we Zoom every week and talk about breaking open. I mean, it's really to go back to even infancy.
Yeah.
Some people don't buy into that, but it's true. You really have to go back and open those doors that you locked up.
Yeah.
Because it stays in you. It's like, so I'm unlocking doors, and in doing so, it's been incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And just, to speak to the emotion that's coming up now, like it's so resonant and deep in our bodies, these things that are part of our tapestry, that are part of our cellular makeup, from the time that we're born. And you're so right. Like if it doesn't move somewhere, then it does stay stuck, but it doesn't go away, and it's going to bubble up at some point. It's just a matter of what match is going to light that flame that's going to set that thing on fire, and then you're going to go, that's on fire.
There it is again. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. So that's so great that you found a coach. I mean, I'm such a big advocate of outside help. And that for me, that encompasses whatever works for the person. Like if it's traditional, talk therapy, if it's, Kundalini yoga, if it's a life coach, if it's, all those things are wonderful. And I think it's just kind of clicking into what works for you. And
absolutely.
So I think that's so wonderful. And to find that person that can witness you and hold space for you and help you open the thing and feel safe.
Right. And it feels cheesy, right? At first you feel cheesy. Like I'm, honoring the little girl who wasn't, who had a need that wasn't, it feels cheesy. And then, but when you allow yourself to go through that process, and it's pretty miraculous, and you just, I feel like I'm expanding more and more. And I look back on the women I connected with throughout my life in the field I work in. We have many women who practice yoga and meditation, and they're just really evolved human beings, right? And they like to talk life deep stuff, and I need that. I've always needed that. I've always been a curious person, and so I've really connected to very strong women throughout my career as an interpreter. So they were a huge help for me along the way. And but if I hadn't, I don't really know if I could do this process the way I'm doing it now. It just feels a little bit like, woo-woo stuff, people sort of make fun of that. And how embraced is that really in the greater society? I think it's more embraced now, but maybe not so much where I am. I'm not quite sure, I think sometimes I don't necessarily, there are times I feel like I don't fit, with yeah, I mean, when people aren't willing to go there and, they think, she's too deep. She's too intense. Oh, God. Like, oh, God, MJ, there she is. She's having that deep conversation with somebody again, and
Sure.
But
sure. Well, and it sounds like you're drawing to you. I mean, just this conversation is evidence that you're drawing to you the depth that you need to experience. And I just want to circle back for a minute to, when we started the conversation and you were describing yourself as a young mother and that feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't be this way. I should be this way. Like, it feels like you're carving out a new path in that regard of like, no, I actually am this way and I'm going to just be this way.
Yes, yes.
And you're either on board with it or you're not, and it's okay. And I'm just going to, and there's something so freeing in that. And I know for me, and part of the reason I started the podcast and also just an experience in talking to all the amazing women I've spoken with, something happens in, I don't know, like your late 30s, early 40s. And this is a generalization, but it's kind of to where it's like, you kind of just say, fuck that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
right.
Fuck that. I have a voice. I have I have a point of view that's mine, and it's valid and it's worthy, and it helps people. And it's okay.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work it's a lot of work for me to get there. I think I'm on a number of levels. It's complicated for me because I'm part of two worlds. Right?
Sure.
So I grew up in the deaf world and I also grew up in the hearing world. And so I'm constantly kind of being mindful of honoring both and not offending, one or the other and not, and wanting to show my solidarity, to both. And that has really, I think, in some ways, been good fertilizer, good material for growth.
Sure.
And in other ways, it's also continues to be a barrier in some ways, and it still is that fear of okay, because I know once I let go, the moment I let go, I genuinely feel like an eagle. I mean, I'm just like whoa, and it's incredible. And then it's what is that like? Foreboding joy, then all of a sudden you have this moment of, oh, I can't, oh no, I shouldn't celebrate that. Right? I shouldn't celebrate that. So it's this process I'm going through. Yes, you should. You celebrate who you are and all of your beauty because you really are, you're amazing. But no, oh, that's really arrogant. Don't do that.
And it's those perceived limitations that really stop us from going for whatever it is. And I think, I'm just going to use an example from my real life, not my fake life, my real life, from my own life is what I meant to say. So my son struggles with anxiety quite a bit, and it was okay for a while, and then it's kind of rearing its head again. And he's so brave, so amazing. He'll be 10 in July, so he's 9. Oftentimes we have these deep conversations at bedtime. He wants to crawl into bed after he's done all of his, 80 jumping jacks. Like he's got to move around and get all the energy out. And then he gets to bed. He says, let's talk, Mom. And the other night he had kind of a breakdown and he said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm broken. I don't want to go to school, but I know it's a good school. And he couldn't figure it out. And it was that moment of, I don't want to feel this way because I don't think anyone else feels this way, and it's not okay for me to feel this way. And I feel so grateful that, and this is in no way being like, oh, I'm a good parent or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just sharing this experience to like, for other parents, who might be going through this or that they can apply it to themselves. I had the wherewithal to say, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Everything you're feeling is okay and normal.
Yes.
And in fact, it's good because it's leading you to yourself and to the solution. And I'm here to support you in finding a solution. And I said, would you be willing to go see your therapist again? Because he had a therapist before. And he said, oh, I would. Maybe that would help. Maybe I said, great, I'll call her. And anyway, we went to her yesterday and it was immensely helpful and uncomfortable for him. Also uncomfortable. But it's like, that's the stuff, right? Is
Yeah.
sitting with our partners, sitting with our children, sitting with our friends, sitting with our coworkers in the discomfort and saying, this is okay.
Yes.
This is part of it,
Right.
instead of, oh, clean that up really fast. Clean it up.
Oh,
I don't want
God.
anyone to see that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And I went through that phase too. I went through the phase of clean it up. You got to be positive. You got to,
Yes.
it's all in your mind and all of these things. And it's like, yes, it's in our mind, but it's because it's locked in our bodies because it's, there's something that we're holding, right? And so to have somebody hold that space for you is really wonderful. And if we could do that for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And then people could do that for us.
Yeah.
Just hold that space and honor it and not have an expectation. I've had to let go of expectations. I mean, why should I hold an expectation of my children to do something that I did not do myself?
Right.
So I'm going to sit with them and I'm going to walk their path with them, and allow them to guide, the walk and
absolutely
be there to support them. But, you say it's not to say, you're a good mom. You are a good mom. And we're all doing the best we can. And I think my oldest son, Shane, has seen all of my stages, right?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
the stage where it was like, I did the prescribed parenting. Oh, you're supposed to discipline this way, or tried the Ferber method, let your baby cry it out. And then I went through everything is just Pollyanna and just wonderful. And okay, it's you can make yourself feel amazing by just telling yourself you're amazing, and then so he's seen me go through all of these stages and this one by far has him calling me the most and saying, Mom, I need your ear.
Oh.
I need your ear, Mom. I know when I call you, and I feel so honored that he says this. I know when I call you, you're going to help me get to that space of, it's like clarity. And that, are you kidding me? I will do this.
Everything.
Exactly. I would go through the same thing all over again, all of the heartache and all the, the turmoil and the guilt and all of that to hear that.
Totally.
Because he's 24. And I wasn't saying that at 24 to my mother, and
no, me neither. Yeah.
Right.
I don't say it now.
No, I don't either.
I love my mom so deeply, and I go to her for other things, and she is the most gentle, kind, loving person. I mean, I just adore my mom, and I don't have inappropriate expectations on her. I love her exactly as she is, but like you, I would put these expectations on people. I mean, I did it to my ex-husband,
right?
And it's just, it doesn't, but I had to go through that. Like you were saying, I just had to go through this path and like have the disappointments and have the discomfort in order to grow. And I think that's so crucial to hear. And it's like my son with his discomfort, and it's like you going through all these different things and the different relationships. Like, that has to happen for growth. There's I think we're just sold this rotten bill of goods that like, well, if you're very attractive and you're very, if you just get everything clean and in a row and you have the right clothes and everything, like, you will never feel pain. Buy this product and you will never feel pain. It's like, no, you're going to feel pain. It's just part of the human experience, Jen's book on being human. It's like, that's part of it,
What a gift that is. I mean, and the perfect timing. I've been waiting for that thing to come out forever.
I can't wait.
You're kidding me? Yes. And I have all my friends, we're all on board with this. And but I will, I don't know. I feel like in going through this process, it's also, I talk about how incredible it is to feel like more vast. It also, like you said earlier, it starts attracting these people in your life.
Yes.
Who are, you're my people. Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you love people too the way I do? You can talk to a total stranger and literally look in their eyes and feel love.
Yeah.
I don't mean it always has to be romantic love. It's that, oh my gosh, your heart.
Yes.
And other people will say, why are you doing that? Just like walk past them. Don't give that person the time of day. They're creepy or they're this or they're that. I can't, and I've never been that way. I've always been one to want to spend time with strangers and ask questions and just look in their eyes and, experience them,
Yeah.
and I finally have accepted that too, because I
Yeah.
thought that was weird. I was told that was weird. You're creepy. Why are you
Sure.
staring in this person's eyes?
Sure.
That's just weird. And
Sure.
it's not weird. It's
Yeah.
not weird at all.
Yeah. And I think those limitations that are placed on us come from a well-intended place of somebody else's fear. Like, so when I can listen to that story and say, okay, I'm imagining you as a little girl. You're my little girl, let's say, and you're 7 years old and you're like, I want to look in this man's eyes. And I'm like, no, like it's easy to say, and I've just obviously made that up. I don't know, but it's easy to jump to that and not be able to, especially if it wasn't given to us, not be able to support like, oh, well, that doesn't feel safe to me, but what are other options, or why are you drawn to that? Or can we talk about that? Or let's explore that. Or, I always say like, when I allow myself to be curious and interested instead of have like contempt prior to investigation and just be afraid and shut down, like the most amazing things happen because I'm able to like open my mind and open my heart and just go, oh my God, I would have missed that. I would have really missed that. But it is a balance. Like you said earlier, like there are safety concerns in life, we can't just, but also it's like, how do we get curious about something instead of just wanting to shut it down? Also, because I got to tell you, I'm tired. I'm emotionally exhausted from yesterday with my kiddo, and I'm so glad I was able to be there for him, but I am just whipped. And so I have to balance that and go, okay, I'm going to, lay down this morning and do a meditation. I'm going to, it's not easy.
Oh, it's not easy.
But it's not easy doing it the other way either and shutting it off. That's not easy either. There is no easy is basically the takeaway.
there is no easy. And sometimes, but I will say that, I get fed from having those moments with people. And I used to feel like it was draining in some way there were moments I would feel, so once I allowed society to creep in and I felt that sort of like embarrassment about who I am, then it became draining. So I couldn't deal with people's emotional stuff because it became too draining.
Right.
But then doing this work, it doesn't feel draining. It feels like it's opening,
nourishing.
Nourishing and feeding my soul and just material for fertilizer for my garden.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And my daughter, I don't know, I've always had this way of connecting with, at some point, usually every decade, I adopt a teenage girl. Okay.
Aww.
So, and I don't really adopt them, but they're,
you take them under your wing.
Yeah. I take them under my wing. And I've done this naturally throughout the past 30, I'm 44. Well, okay, 20 years of my life. Okay, let's do the math here, MJ. Whoa. And that for a while was viewed as a little bit strange. Like, why is MJ spending so much time with this, teenage girl? Like, she needs to grow up. And you know why? Because I had that as a child. I had my Aunt Charlene, who was my everything, and she sort of took me under her wing. And but this process of doing that and sitting with a teenage girl who is, there are days when she just wants to throw herself down and weep.
Sure.
And being there with her and weeping with her and telling her, it's okay. I'm here and this is normal. And this is you cleansing and purging and doing all that work that most people don't do.
Yeah.
That makes you feel like you are strange and there's something wrong with you. You're cleansing and let's keep doing that. Let's keep doing. So I don't feel drained from that. I feel fed from that. So after a long conversation yesterday with this particular, surrogate of mine who I absolutely adore, I came home and I got up on my computer and I was doing work, and my husband came in the house and said, you need to go out and deal with Alana, my 5-year-old. She's in the car and she's mad at me and she doesn't want to come out. And my immediate default was, I can't do it. Yeah. And it had nothing to do with what I had been through that day in talking to, this person. It had to do with the other things in my life that were actually draining me, which is work. That's draining me right now,
Sure.
but the emotional piece of being able to connect with another human being and sit in that space with them feels rejuvenating for me. And I don't know where it came from in that moment, but I said to myself, okay, MJ, you got this. Like this is your thing. This is what you're good at. Get up, go outside, let go of work. That's draining you. Okay. Not your 5-year-old, not this 17-year-old girl, work. So go and do what feeds you. And it was a matter of a few minutes and, of holding her and validating her and being with her. Right. And not trying to hurry the process along. Okay, mommy's busy. I got work. I got to.
Yes.
That just quelled her. It was like,
it's so hard to do that though, because we do have these things. We do have the laundry and the things. And, I'm getting incrementally better at just saying, you know what, my son's my priority, because it would just be like, I would just have this almost like, I hate to use the word martyr, but I've given so much. I need time for myself, or I need, and it's like, well, okay. But the fact is he's only going to be 9 once. He's only going to be 9 for 2 more months.
Right.
And like, this is so crucial. It's the most important thing. And, like yesterday, I'm able to do this, but I canceled my whole day so that I could take him to therapy. And I'm glad that I was there for that. And I could talk to the therapist and be there and then sit outside and wait for him. And, there's just nothing more important. Now that is coming from a very I have the means to do that. I have the situation that I can do that. I know there are,
absolutely,
there are people that can't do that, but I think it's just, like you said, it's finding that space to really let go of the things that ultimately big picture aren't important and aren't urgent,
Yeah. I mean, my husband folding the towels the wrong way. I gotta let go. I don't need to follow behind him and refold the freaking towels. MJ, let it go. Go spend an extra 5 minutes with your kids.
That's hysterical.
Those towels are okay, I mean, the laundry, right, it's going to be there. And it's going to add up. But the laundry is not a human being, right?
Right.
And the laundry doesn't have an energetic impact on the world.
Right.
We have the energetic impact. Our children do. So, how do I want to be in the world? Do I want my laundry to be folded exactly the right way because that looks good and has zero energy to it? I mean, maybe maybe it shifts my energy in some way, my energy field, or do I really want to, work on my energy field with people, with my children, my spouse and my mom. I mean, that's another challenge. My mother is deaf and she lives with us. And my mother-in-law is hearing and she lives with us too. So we have 2 moms who are living with us. And I'm always sort of in the midst of navigating communication with them and all of that, and having to deal with that piece, having to deal with the dementia that looks very different on both ends. They both have it and it looks different for both of them. So all of that, the thought of it, which is part of why I went through this whole thing last year, the thought of doing it felt exhausting, but then actually doing it when I'm present with it and honoring it actually feels like it's feeding me. And you can probably see that from the video. I had a video go viral on the internet.
Let's talk about that. So can you tell me about that? How did that happen? What was the impetus for you to do that and post it? And then what happened?
Well, I am addicted to, I told you I have hyperfocus issues, addiction stuff going on here with, having to record everything. And I want to take pictures of everything. I want to capture every moment. And so I always leave I used to leave my phone camera on all the time in the car when I would be in the car with my parents, because both of my parents have things going on. So my father has something going on that's causing him to decline, and my mom with her dementia. So anytime I'd be in the car with my parents, I would record the entire ride. And I also did that for my children. A lot of our conversations, I would just keep that phone running. And wow, it's really great to look back on. And it's someday I'm going to do something with this because I have such great material that's really fun. I happened to take my mom for a ride to the beach, and I had, recorded the whole way, recorded the whole moment of sitting at the beach, in the car, and she had just moved in with me about a month before. She had lived with me a couple years ago, and then we moved her into an assisted living memory care facility, and then we ran out of money because those places are expensive. It was isolating.
Yeah.
Despite the good nature of all the people there, it was really isolating for her, and so we went broke basically too. And so we moved her into my house, and hadn't been witness to how severe her dementia had become at that point. And when we were sitting there, she started talking about, this is really fascinating too, Jen, is she started talking about things that she has clearly locked in her body, which was what it was like for her as a mother. And witnessing her two daughters fighting and not being able to deal with that. And she repeats that story over and over and over and over and over again. So but that day was one of the first times that I noticed she was talking about Luann and Mary Jane. She still calls me Mary Jane. She was talking about Luann and Mary Jane in a way as if they weren't there. Right. And so is that third person?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or second person, whatever.
Yeah. Third person. Yeah. You got it.
She was talking about me. And I realized, wait a minute, she's talking about me and as if I'm not here.
Right.
And then I said, where is MJ?
Yeah.
And she said, I don't know. Haven't seen her in so long. And that was one of the first times that had happened. Even though it was starting to happen here and there, but the way that kind of transpired was unique. Yeah. And that's why I decided to post it. The moment she kind of came to realizing and it was the way she signed it too. She said, I birthed you. And then she signed birth. Mm-hmm. She pointed to me and with this face that was like, what? I'm yours. You're mine. Yes. And then that discovery.
Right.
Oh, it was precious. I mean, now she has many, many moments that she just doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
She'll ask me, did you grow up with Mary Jane? Did you go to school with her?
Yeah.
She's so busy. I never see her. Yeah. I don't see her anymore. It's been so long. But that was one of the, it was in the beginning of that for me. And so, but people took to the video in many different ways. And a lot of it was heartbreaking for people. And for me, it didn't feel heartbreaking. It felt I could be in that same space with her where she was sort of celebrating the discovery of her daughter that she thought she hadn't seen in months. Okay. Right. So it was just happy. And I was elated and it felt like a moment of joy. And I don't think I would have seen it that way.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Right.
I think I would have allowed that to feed the story of, everything is just hard.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it's not hard. I don't want to discount dementia being hard and doing all the things that I'm doing because I don't know how I'm spinning all the plates that I'm spinning. It's freaking hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wasn't in a space in that moment of it being hard. I was in a very different space because I think I could be with her in that moment. And that's what sort of this journey has become for me. And that's again, she's like a lot of material for me for my growth. It's been wonderful.
So beautiful, MJ. And just something that is occurring to me as you've been talking is that you are such a seeker of love. You genuinely seek love. And that moment where you said, and you signed it, unfortunately, this is just audio, so my listeners can't see you, but you signed birth. I birthed you. And then the look that came upon you reenacted on your mom's face, like to feel that love from your mom is so deep and so healing on so many levels. And yes, the dementia's existing, all of this is happening at the same time, but like because of the work that you've done on yourself and with your spirit and all that, you were able to access that. And that is remarkable.
Oh, I'm really grateful for that. I really am very, very happy that I can experience that with her. I do feel like, when my parents, when it's their time, I feel like I will be able to look back and say, I really treasured, despite how busy my life is. And trust me, it's busy. And there's days I'm like, I can't I can't do this business anymore. I'm done. Okay, I'm sending the email. Okay, as of September 1st, 2019, I will, I replay that scenario over and over again in my mind. And I want to give up and I want to quit. And I just want to like go sit in a field and sob and pick a daisy and like, and just be numb to like, oh,
yes,
God.
yes.
But I feel like the way, even how I hug my father's now immobile. He can't walk. He has something called progressive supranuclear palsy, ugly disease. I can't say it's beautiful. There are beautiful moments of the connection that we have as a result of him allowing me to help him, right?
Yes.
That is magical and powerful and life-changing. And so now when I have to pick him up, we have to have two people working with him to get him dressed. I have to pick him up and I'm holding my dad and my arms are around him and his arms are around me. And we can't speak to each other because he's deaf. So I can't see his face because his head is on my shoulder. We have never embraced each other in that way. So every time I pick him up and I'm just holding him so he can keep his balance, I'm hugging him. And I am just taking in all of his daddy love that I know that he feels in that moment, right? That daddy daughter, like nobody has this. Nobody has this like we have it. This is ours. And it's that's been special too. Yeah, I'm a seeker of love. I love love. I mean, I really do. It's the
that
thing.
Is just profound. Well, MJ, I mean, I don't want to end our conversation, but it's time for me to kind of start my wrap up and do the questions that I normally do. But I just have to say that Jen Pasteloff, when I told her that I had scheduled my session with you, she said, and I quote, "Get ready to have your mind blown." And let me tell you something, sister,
really?
You did not disappoint.
Oh, Jen, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. What a compliment.
I am so honored to know you now. And just thank you for sharing this bit of yourself with me and with my listeners. So, okay. So what happens now is I ask you 3 questions that I ask every guest, and then we go into a fun little lightning round. So the first question, MJ, is what do you think about when you hear the word MILF?
Wow, I get anxiety, right? I'm like, oh gosh, or people, I get anxiety about the word MILF. Again, that goes back to some of my own fears and perception, right? About perception. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Right.
Just, full disclosure.
Yes.
The second thing that comes to my mind, I can't help but to go back. I never actually saw the movie, right? So I never saw the movie. But I remember standing in the main mall doing, I for a little while I was in radio, and I remember standing there doing a gig for a radio show, and I remember one of the on-air personalities saying, "Wow, so you have a teenage son, his friends must think you're a MILF." Whoa, I'm like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. I didn't know what that meant. So I think of that scenario, where I actually learned from him what that was. And empowerment. I think empowerment, that's really what comes to mind after going through that flurry of those memories and, empowerment.
What's something you've changed your mind about recently?
I've changed my mind about the fact that I can't change my mind, right? So I can. I've also changed my mind about the idea of everything has to be positive. Okay. I don't want to give that perception. I don't want people to think that I am perfect and that everything is great in my life, because it's not. And I cry and I weep. And there are times I'm in a fetal position in my car because I actually enjoy that process, but it's hard, right? So changing my mind about not being able to change my mind. Yeah. And the thought that I'm not smart. I thought for a long time I wasn't smart. I'm smart. I am.
Yes.
I changed my mind about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
Self-discovery, the process, embracing the journey, every step of the way, allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to be, aligning with your sacred purpose, all of that whole process to me.
Yeah. Okay. Lightning round of questions.
Okay, go.
Ocean or desert?
Ocean.
Favorite junk food?
Whoopie pies. Do you know what that is?
Whoopie pies. Oh my God. So good. So good. So good. Movies or Broadway show?
Movies.
Daytime sex or nighttime sex?
Anytime my daughter's not in the bed. Yeah. We have, we have a family bed. So.
Yeah. Texting or talking?
Talking, unless it's business, I prefer to text.
Yeah. Cat person or dog person?
Dog.
Have you ever worn a unitard?
Is that like the full body thing?
Full
where
body,
it
babe.
goes down to your ankles?
Goes
too?
down to your ankles.
I have never worn a unitard. I've worn one of those like bodysuit things.
Okay. No unitard. Shower or bathtub?
Shower in the morning and bathtub at night if I had a really good bathtub. Yeah.
Ice cream or chocolate?
Chocolate. Oh, dang. Ice cream. Wait, ice cream with peanut butter and chocolate on it.
Yes, girl. Yes. Right? Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at ping pong?
Ooh, I would say a 3.
Okay. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Inauthenticity. People who aren't willing to go there. Yeah, I would say, moments when I am not authentic. That's a pet peeve. When I'm not, when I'm afraid, when I'm being held back by something, and so therefore I'm not authentic. Yeah. Hence it being a pet peeve when other people do it, right?
If you could push a button and it would make everyone in the world 7% happier, but it would also place a worldwide ban on all hairstyling products, would you push it?
Yes.
Superpower choice: invisibility, ability to fly, or super strength?
Super strength physically?
Yes.
Oh, ability to fly. I love flying. I dream it. Yeah.
Would you rather have 6 fingers on both hands? This is interesting because you're a sign,
right? Yeah,
sign language. 6 fingers on both hands, or a belly button that looks like foreskin.
I just have a belly button that looks like foreskin. It sort of does.
You have one that looks like foreskin?
It flops over a little bit. It does. It's all the pregnancies and stuff. It's
gosh.
It's not. It's different. So I like my belly button. It looks like foreskin. I'll take it.
Okay, so you'll keep your belly button.
I'll keep
there
the
you have it.
Yeah.
All right, keep that foreskin. What was the name of your first pet?
Labby.
What was the name of the? Yeah. What was it?
Labby, but it's sort of I don't know where that name came from.
Labby.
Labby.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the name of the street that you grew up on?
Old Falls Road.
Oh, okay. So your porn name is Labby Old Falls. Labby Old Falls. I think she was a former porn star, and now
she's trying to reinvent herself. Oh God.
Oh my God. MJ, you're a treasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with MJ Grant. Join me next week for a fresh episode of MILF Podcast. Bye.